Oh, hey, good morning, everybody. You're watching Rebel Roundup. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and it is Wednesday, which means it's Western Wednesdays. We're convening the Buffalo panel. As always on Wednesdays is my beloved co-host and real-life best friend in the whole wide world, Lise Merle from Regina, Saskatchewan. How's it going, Lise?
Well, hello, Sheila Gunn Reid. What a great day not to work for the CBC.
Oh,
It's just such I waited for this moment my whole life, and what a great day to work for Rebel News.
yeah, every day is a great day to work for Rebel News. And
True
speaking
story.
of working for Rebel News, on the end there, on house arrest, but also working for Rebel News, my friend, my coworker, and Freedom Convoy leader, Tamara Lich. Tamara, how's it going from Medicine Hat, Alberta?
Going awesome. I'm coming at you live from my basement on
S-
house arrest.
Same, except no house arrest. And I'm delighted to have Tamara on the show always, but especially because we're going to get her to react to something we reacted to yesterday, and that is
Oh.
Travis Downraj's takedown. He just burned the house down yesterday at Heritage Committee, throwing all sorts of firebombs at his former CBC colleagues, and he noted the elitist, snobby things that they said about Tamara Lich and the likes of Tamara Lich. So I wanna have Tamara react to that
Well,
live.
it
But
was bizarre.
oh,
Oh,
uh-oh.
oh,
Medicine Hat internet's getting us. Anyways, we'll get Tamara to do that in a second, but I'll tell everybody how they can get involved in the show. If you're watching us on Rumble, delightful free speech platform over there. If you want to leave a paid chat and have your say, maybe you want to react to what Travis Donraj had to say about old Rosie Barton and David Cochran, you can leave a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat over there. And we ask you for that because we don't take any money from the government, unlike the CBC. And boy, I think it shows. If you're watching us over on YouTube, their paid chat is called a super chat, and their paid comment is called a super thanks. So if you miss a live version of the show, but you want to have your say, you can leave a super thanks, and it'll be highlighted in the chat there. And we'll do our best to get to anything that's under the $5 US cutoff, time permitting, but Wednesdays is management level meetings here at Rebel News, so we can't go too long. Anything $5 and over, of course, it's obligatory. We'll react on air. So now that that's out of the way, let's show this clip of former CBC host Travis Downraj at Heritage Committee yesterday talking about the things that David Cochran, that elitist jerk, had to say about people who are not in his well-kept socio-elite circles.
When it came to Mr. Cochran, this is during the convoy, for example. We were talking about Tamara Lich, who was an individual who was involved in the convoy. We were doing a story around that. Off the hand remarks can be made at times. And I said, I think that she has a couple of different last names. People who live in trailers usually do. Okay, off-color remark, but if this is a pattern, right? You have to, if your staff on your own show are raising this, if people are leaving the program, you have to look a little bit deeper into it, as opposed to pulling me off the air for saying it's unfortunate the president didn't come on the show.
Tamara, let him have it.
Just unbelievable. I was obviously shocked as I was watching the hearing yesterday for work for Rebel News and clipping some of the stuff, and imagine my surprise when my name was brought up in the committee hearings. Especially, just such an elitist attitude, first and foremost. Of course, I've had many last names. I was born under a name. I was then adopted, and I've had more than one marriage. So that doesn't mean that your opinion should be diminished or you should be considered invaluable, which is exactly really what that is, a very dismissive remark and a very condescending remark. But it's indicative of a bigger problem that's in Ottawa, and that's that elitist attitude and we saw it very prevalent during area of people who felt that we were no good because we worked with our hands for a living, we got our fingers dirty for a living, So apparently, if you don't work for CBC in CBC headquarters or on Parliament Hill or get your paycheck from the government, your opinion just doesn't matter. What struck me as even more ironic about this was, remember a few weeks ago when we were at the CPC convention?
Yeah, man.
Go on.
And Sheila and I had wandered over.
Uh-oh.
And I remember being absolutely shocked because, you know, here's the leader of the opposition giving his speech. Now, I know they get the speech ahead of time, but I mean, to me, it's just a matter of respect. They were the only two people in the whole building that weren't turned around, at least pretending to listen to his speech. And I just thought for the CBC, you know, our state-funded broadcaster, that would be something that they would at least, you know, pretend that they were interested in. And so I snapped that photo. Of course, the next day, Dave.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
the next day, the last thing she said was the next day, David Cochrane. Sorry, Tamara Lich, we can't quite hear you. There was a little bit of a
lag.
Back. Sorry, guys.
There we
Oh,
go.
that's okay. Go ahead.
So you said the next day, David Cochrane.
Yeah, so the next day, of course, David Cochrane had went to the CPC media relations team, and then I was approached, and she said, you know, it was basically a matter of media courtesy. He found the photo was unflattering, and
It was.
it was, but it was real and it was true.
Sure.
It was the truth. I wasn't trying to portray them as anything other than what they were actually doing or not doing. And so I did take it down. I took it down, you know, because he felt it was unflattering and he felt it was humiliating. But, you know, he would never do the same for us. And he would never search out nice photos of me or anybody in the convoy to put on the front of any of his headlines. So, you know, it's very much an elitist attitude. And it's not surprising, but it's disappointing for sure.
Yeah, those two actually relied on the fact that they know that you're a nice person. I'm less nice than you, for sure. But they knew that, oh, you didn't want to get Rebel News in trouble, you know, you didn't want to get us kicked out, you didn't want to hurt people's feelings, whatever. And so you took it down. So even after they said all that horrible stuff about you, they preyed on the fact that you're a nice person and had. And by the way, he couldn't come to you himself. He
no,
is scared
absolutely
of you.
unheard of. He had to send an intermediary from the Conservative Party of Canada
Yeah.
to do his dirty work, to do his heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You know, and he's never talked to me. He's never reached out to me for an interview or to find out my side of the story or anything. Like this is a part of the huge problem. And as we saw yesterday, nobody watches the CBC.
Right.
And
we'll get to that in a second.
Very, very clearly silencing conservative voices. The CBC is supposed to be for all Canadians.
Right.
You know, not a select few or their favorites.
Yeah. Yeah. You get the sense that the attitude at the CBC is poor people or working class people should sit down and shut up because their moral and intellectual superiors at the CBC know what's good for them. And they're quite offended that you didn't take their advice.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I thought
terrible.
that what he said there about, you know, so what that interaction told me, what Travis Danraj told me was this was sort of the beginning of COVID, where they were sort of just trying to get their feelers around you, Tamara Lich. Okay, because they're talking about what names you go by or what, you know, how they're going to refer to you or whatever. And if this was the prevailing narrative that got decreed by David Cochrane, who we also heard from Travis Danraj was controlling the narrative about just about everything in the early part of the convoy. Well, then I think David Cochrane and Rosie Barton's coverage of Tamara Lich in the early days of the convoy are really pertinent at this time, because if that's what they said there, don't tell me that it wasn't reflected in their reporting. So we're gonna put a real fine lens on what they said about us during that time.
For sure.
Because they deserve it.
I think, and not only that, but it's pretty clear that what they were trying to do is find ways to completely smear and discredit me.
Oh, disparage you. Yes.
You know, like totally
write you
disparage me. So, you know, it's just sad. And again, they were trying to do this at the same time while never reaching out to me in any fashion. So it's just one side of the story.
Right. Which is proper journalistic practice, by the way.
Yeah.
Here at Rebel News, if we're taking a swing at a high-profile target, we reach out to them for comment and give them sufficient time to ignore us, which is the right of reply, which is what they should have offered you. It's what they should have offered Ezra at the Debates Commission when they were saying all kinds of crazy things about us. And we were literally in the building. Ezra approached them to ask for a right of reply since they had the commissioner on and they were making all sorts of crazy allegations about us that they subsequently had to retract on an obscure website owned by the CBC where they post their retractions. All we wanted was the right of reply, and they called the SPVM on us. So the Montreal police.
But that's just it with these people. They're bullies. These are the people that get on their little pedestals every day and don't speak with you. They speak at you.
Right.
And they tell you about how you shouldn't be bullied. You got to be more tolerant. You got no space for hate. And this is literally the space for hate.
Right.
Now, I mean, the crying room isn't obviously working. They need more outlets. Like,
and the thing is, I don't care if these people like me. I don't care if they like you. If they dislike you, Tamara Lich, they're definitely wrong and they have poor taste in people. But I just don't want to pay for it. Like, if they want to do one-sided coverage all day long, such as their right. I mean, I come at things through a conservative worldview, but you don't have to pay for me. I just don't want, like, they can be wrong and bad and elitist and snobs all they want. Such is a free country. But I don't want to pay for it. And that's the problem with the CBC right now.
That's exactly right. Kean Bexty had a hilarious tweet. He said he's taken aback. He doesn't want the CBC defunded. He wants Tamara Lich put in charge of it for the next 10 years. And I was like, yes.
That's all I want.
This is how we fix
guaranteed
things.
I could bring up their viewership for sure. I mean, that should be it. Maybe I should take a 6-month, and if I don't beat double David Cochran's viewership, then I'll donate all of my paychecks to charity.
Well, you wouldn't have to.
My job at Rebel News, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I did write an article a very long time ago for the CBC. They did pay me for it. It was a pittance. I didn't care. And it was on the NDP banning me from the Alberta legislature. And I think the person who made the editorial decision to include like a conservative view was fired after that.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I
but
was blacklisted.
She was brave.
I was blacklisted. Oh, shoot. My other phone is ringing. It's gonna, sorry, put me on mute, Olivia. Sorry.
Mute her. Quick, Olivia. Oh, no. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank God. Where were we?
You were blacklisted by the CBC.
Oh, yeah. I was blacklisted by the CBC back in like 2011. 2011. And it's lasted this long. And then truly, like, I sort of checked out because at the time, that is where the disparity between independent press and the CBC or the mainstream media became really, really obvious to Canadians, was about that time. So, but it sounds like they've just accelerated and they've gotten worse and worse. Like, they've gotten more invested in their echo chamber than we ever thought possible. Like, can you imagine having an itemized list of acceptable opinions to have on the CBC? It's only 48 people long. And then refusing to have external ideas promoted through the CBC. It is egregious. It's egregious. Like, the ways that this would have influenced the last election are just incalculable.
Right.
Incalculable.
Yeah,
But at the same time, nobody's watching the CBC. This is from our friend Chris Sims over at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation on the CBC Audience Share. So when you're looking at the audience share, please remember that CBC has mandatory carriage. So whether you buy CBC or not, whether you want to turn it on, it's in your cable package. Even if you don't have cable, it's in like your antenna package. So it is in the home of every single Canadian on every single TV set, whether you want it or not. And yet, the audience
like a bad rash, you just can't get rid of it.
Right. We're having a flare-up of the CBC. We've got CBC News World or Newsnet, whatever they're calling it now. News World is CTV, I guess. 1.7% audience share. And CBC TV 3.6 audience share, meaning 98% and 96% of Canadians are choosing to watch something else. So CBC is a huge waste of money. Nearly nobody is watching it. And of course, as Chris always says, journalists should not be paid by the government.
Well, look
So-
at that. Only to platform people like Jason Kenney. Like, I'm just trying to think of the rotating list of characters that appeared on the CBC in the CBC booth at the Conservative Party convention. It was Jason Kenney was one of them. He was in there for an extensive amount of time. Jenny Byrne was on the CBC. Who else did they have on? Just a real cast of characters.
And they had Daniel Smith on for a fair bit. I
So
believe.
she must pass their litmus test because she's the premier of Alberta, and it would look rude if they didn't have her on.
Since she was the keynote speaper
Since
at the
that.
event.
Since that.
But other important news-making conservative women like Tamara Lich, hard no-go.
Yeah.
And I learned my lesson. They'll never have me back after that.
Well, even look at how they chose to report something, you know, there was a gentleman, one guy from the CBC that came regularly to attend our trial. And I remember when Zexi Lee, the lady who's suing us for $290 million, came to testify in court. And this gentleman commented on what she was wearing. She comes into court wearing Uggs, like a midriff shirt and flowy white pants.
Nice.
With 3 armed police officers for security, by the way.
Oh my God.
And he commented on her dress, how she was dressed, and then he commented on how I was dressed, which was, you know, in a blazer and dress pants or whatever. And he was actually reprimanded by the CBC. I think there was a report on it in the CBC. I'll find it for you. He was reprimanded for talking about the way I was dressed or the way that we were both dressed because he made me sound like I was respectful and professional. You know, if it would have been going in there in like a hoodie and jeans or something, it would have been completely fine to run a story like that. But because I was tastefully dressed, and this reporter got in trouble from the CBC for that.
It's relevant to describe the demeanor and comportment of the subjects of your story.
Yep.
That's part of the who, what, where, when, why.
Yes.
Anyway, let's go into the floor crossing of an NDP MP late last night, which puts the Liberals' majority after these 3 by-elections, in certainty territory, because there's 3 by-elections coming up and 2 of them are absolutely safe Liberal ridings. So after those by-elections are done and they have been called already, the Liberals won't have to call an election. They will just have their majority and we'll get 3 more years of out-of-control spending, out-of-control immigration, and general societal decline. But Lori Idlout, NDP MP, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Lori Idlout, sorry, crossed the floor to the Liberals. She's an NDP MP from, what's her riding here? Anyways, it's Nunavut. Yeah. And she says, "That is why, after much personal reflection and encouragement from my community, I highly doubt that, family and supporters, I've decided to join the government caucus and to work alongside Prime Minister Mark Carney to build the better future that Nunavummiut, I guess that's what you describe residents of Nunavut, are counting on." So that's one step closer.
I, for one, am delighted that it's not another Conservative. I mean, bright sides to everything. That they poached an NDP MP is sort of makes me feel a tiny bit better, but not really when you consider that they're within striking distance of getting a majority. But what I think is most important here is how unprecedented this is. In a normal election cycle, you can expect maybe one floor crosser. Okay,
maybe one
is a huge
and on an issue, issue. Like you might have an MP cross the floor on a matter of conscience. So, or you know, like, or in disagreement with a piece of legislation. Like, say you have a freedom-minded Liberal MP. We know those largely don't exist, but say you do, and they cross the floor on the issue of Bill C9. That makes perfect sense to me, because some things are a deal breaker for some people.
Mhm.
But we don't have that before us. We just have people saying, I want to be in the government caucus, and off they go. They just like put on their walking shoes and they head on over to the Liberal Party. And that's what we're seeing here. He's stealing, and borrowing
This is
a majority.
she's the fourth. She's the
The fourth.
floor crosser in the last handful of months.
Yeah.
This isn't nothing, Canada. This is something to be real concerned about, because whatever Mark Carney is doing in the background, whatever promises he's making these people, should be known to the people of Canada.
Yep. Yeah. We've got Don
100%.
Davies.
This is
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's absolutely shocking that they are trying to steal a majority when the Canadians clearly gave them a majority government. Absolutely incredible that this continues to happen. And you're right, there's only, well, they have two for sure, basically for sure, seats that they're going to bring in with these by-elections. So, but you know, the one thing that it's going to do is it's going to bolster the sentiment behind Alberta separation, Alberta independence.
Yeah, because our votes don't matter. We can't vote any bluer. And even if you vote blue, they'll cross the floor, like Matt Genereux, Judas Matt Genereux. So we don't have any say. Mark Carney will undermine the will of the people. These MPs, these indignant, self-serving MPs, will ignore the message their constituents tried to send to Ottawa to line their pockets, to maybe get a cabinet position and a salary top-up when you get a cabinet position or a special appointment. And they don't walk across the floor to sit in the back bench. They never do. They always end up on the front benches or as a special advisor to some other made-up role, because it gives them a $30,000 to $50,000 a year salary top-up. And so that's what their integrity is worth. And I can't imagine selling mine out for so little. We've got NDP leader Don Davies on the floor crossing of Lori Idlout to the Liberals.
What does it mean for the future of the party? You're in a leadership race, and sorry to point it out, but there's an MP behind you that's talking about leaving the party. So where does that leave you?
Well, you know, I'm becoming increasingly concerned by the way that Mr. Carney is trying to stitch together a majority government in this country. Once again, to us, whether or not there's a majority government is fundamentally a decision of the Canadian people at the ballot box. And it should happen that way, not through backroom deals cut behind closed doors in Ottawa.
What does it mean for the...
Wait a minute. Is what's happening
Ever met
so bad? What's happening so bad that I'm like, yeah, Don Davies? Hell
That the
yeah,
NDP,
100%
that the NDP
right.
is making sense. How upside down does it have to be so that when the NDP starts talking and they're making sense to the rest of us, it's got to be pretty bad in Ottawa. It's got to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
And ironic coming from the party that you know is known for backdoor deals,
Right.
backroom deals.
We've got
That's
a
called
flash.
getting a taste of your own medicine, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, that is true. Aren't you the party that propped up these jerks and basically gave them a majority in practice?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's no loss to the NDP either, because they're sort of an ineffective party. But now that she's in with the Libs, well, watch to see what her riding gets.
I guess they're making it official, right? Like the NDP have been the socialist caucus of the Liberal Party for the last 4 or 5 years anyway. I guess she's just cutting out the middleman of Don Davies.
That's true. That's true. Typically they would put those real far leftists in the Senate. So it's nice that they went and put him in the put her in the House of Commons with the Libs instead of in the
or
Senate.
on some sort of trade negotiation panel. We've got Lori Idlout herself back when she was saying a month ago that 2 months ago?
Yeah, January 7th.
You know what? She's pulling the old Matt Genereux, hey?
Yeah.
Has revealed that she's been asked to consider crossing the floor to join the Liberals, but she will not, because she wouldn't be as free to criticize the government. And everyone's like, yeah, right on, sister.
Like, seriously, the comments under this post are just so effusive with support for her. So I can't wait to see what all of these people have to say now that they know that she betrayed them, that she's a lying liar. Look at her, a lying liar, and did the thing that she said that she absolutely would not consider.
Right. Because for sure, as I said, these people don't cross the floor to sit in the back benches.
That's right.
You cross the floor for some sort of position, cabinet, and or appointment as a special
Well,
advisor to something. She's going to get it.
She was shown an opportunity and she took it.
Yeah.
Mark Miller just up there last week too. Maybe you took her a bouquet of flowers and a box of chocolates or something.
Oh,
For sure.
oh, were they courting her? Did they send Mark Miller with a box of chocolates? Did they?
Wow.
Well,
Oh, and
send him up with a bag of lettuce and some cucumbers. She's in Nunavut. That's like gold up there.
some laundry detergent.
Right.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe some Pepsi.
Goodness. Interesting.
Should we hit an ad? Let's hit an ad break early and then go into all the Alberta stuff because Abacus data has some crazy numbers, which I don't believe for a second. If I had to guess, oh yeah, definitely heavily sampling Edmonton. So such is the case. So let's hit an ad break. We'll come back on the other side.
Budget 2026 is focused on what matters, including record investments in education. Budget 2026 is focused on giving students the best opportunities to succeed. That's why we're following through on our commitment to hire 3,000 more teachers and 1,500 more EAs. It also focuses on fast-tracking the construction and renovation of 161 schools across the province. Budget 2026, focused on what matters.
Alberta is at a crossroads. For years, I've heard the frustration. I've felt it too, but frustration doesn't build a country. Preparation does. In my new book, Independence Blueprint, What Alberta Can Learn from Quebec, I break down the hard mechanics of sovereignty, what we can learn from Quebec's 1995 referendum, the research that's already been done, and what would actually come next for a free Alberta. There's the constitutional process, currency, pensions, continuity of services, trade, resource control, Indigenous partnership, and international recognition. These aren't slogans. This isn't fantasy. These are just hard facts and serious preparation. Whether Alberta stays or goes, we need to understand the stakes. Head over to buy your copy today at independenceblueprint.ca. Let's be prepared, because our time is now.
All right. Okay. We've got no ad read today, so that's okay. We've got this post from David Coletto. He's a partner at Abacus Data, and it's Edmonton. So take that for what you will. Vote intention in Edmonton, Liberal 47%, Conservative 40%. Urban Alberta is becoming a much more competitive federal battleground. I think in some ridings, that Liberal vote is concentrated, but I don't think it is spread out across the city, especially in the like outlying parts of the city, because once you hit the suburbs, it's blue as blue can be. But I wouldn't read too much into this because the response to our fire mat petition across Edmonton was very strong, and vote in, like, let's not oversample this, because again, a self-serving politician who has consistently voted Conservative crossed the floor to the Liberals. That doesn't mean that Edmonton is generally a Liberal place, but Edmonton leaning more progressive is not so much a surprise. I say it repeatedly. One of Ralph Klein's most famous quips was, Edmonton is a lovely city with too many mosquitoes and socialists. And that's like a 30-year-old quote. It remains true today. It is an NDP stronghold. It is what it is. It's the government city. So this actually doesn't surprise me all that much.
No, there's liberal enclaves in every urban center in the country. We know that this is true, but to suggest that liberalism is catching on fire in Alberta, well, that's not probably true either. You know,
no, it's not. And I will point to I think it's 80% of Albertans approve of Danielle Smith's referendum questions on immigration, as proof that we are not seeing an uptick across the board
Right.
in Liberal support, because her referendum questions run completely contrary to the Liberal agenda on immigration. So informed voters who care, and I hope there are a few in Edmonton, are supportive of her immigration policy, and hopefully they can put the two together and say, oh, her immigration policy is different than the Liberal immigration policy. Perhaps I should consider my vote elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I find it curious that I never get calls for these
I
to,
never
to
do
participate in any of these polls. And Sheila and I were literally just, zigzagging across the whole province of Alberta. And I haven't talked to a single person in all of our travels the last 3 weeks, Sheila, that does support the Liberals. Just like we were talking, I haven't come across a single Canadian that hates Donald Trump or hates Americans.
No.
Where they collect all this data from.
Well, I met one of those weaponized boomers in the wild on the Fire Matt Genero truck caper, but it was so shocking to me because in my 46 years in Alberta, I had never seen one before, and it was like seeing a cryptid, like something you'd only heard about, but didn't know that existed. A Wendigo or a Bigfoot. Like I just couldn't believe my eyes. I was sort of taken aback, and I didn't react the way that I probably should have to it, but it was just so jarring. I'd never seen it before, so that should tell you something. We've got a Pierre Poilievre on Mark Carney's efforts to beg, steal, and borrow away to a majority. He says, Mark Carney is using backroom deals to seize a costly majority that voters rejected, which will enable Liberals to balloon debt, inflate the cost of living, block resources, and turn criminals loose on our streets. Conservatives will do what we promised voters, fight for a Canada that is affordable, safe, and strong at home and unbreakable abroad. Yeah, I just don't know how you could cross the floor to the Liberals after seeing what they've done to this country in the last 11 years. But as I said, people will sell out their integrity for $30,000 to $50,000 of a salary top-up, I guess.
Yeah, they sure will.
Literally the only thing that can explain all of this. I mean, especially after they've all seen how, like you said, what's happened to our country under Liberal rule in the last decade.
Yeah.
What could possibly be the motivation for wanting to join that team? I don't understand it either.
Go to downtown in any city in this country.
Yeah.
And think about what it looked like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And those are, P.S., not the Liberal enclaves. Those are not they don't overlap. Like where all the problems are not where the Liberals live. They are absolved from their own bad decisions. They never, ever, ever suffer the consequences of their bad decisions. So.
No, they don't.
In good news, but not surprising news, because not a single one of these has gone forward. Another recall bid has failed in Alberta. The unions and the Forever Canada people have been trying to undo the will of the people by undoing the last election through their abuse of the recall petition clause, and their recall petition, led by Heather Van Snick, I can almost see her haircut, says her campaign against Premier Smith gathered close to 2,300 signatures.
Oh.
But it needed at least 12,000 to move forward.
Good try, Heather.
Good try. Swing and a miss, lady. Brooks Medicine Hat. Like, how did you think you were going to get anybody to recall the premier there? She still thinks the petition was useful. How? And that 2,300 people calling for better representation in Smith's riding of Brooks Medicine Hat sends a powerful message.
Okay, so we can tell you for sure without question that Medicine Hat Brooks has at least 2,300 lefties in it, and that she was able to access all of them at the same time, and it's a pretty great ratio. I bet that there are far more conservatives there than there are.
We met some of them at our event there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only place we had protesters.
Was Medicine Hat.
Oh yeah, that's where the protesters were with their delightful signs. Actually, the one time I was at a thing in Medicine Hat, A protester, so it was in an event space, and a protester went behind the screen, like behind the stage, and yelled their thing and quickly escaped down a back staircase. So Medicine Hat is known for these kind of outbursts. I
Yeah.
think. It's a hot spot.
Any university has its little cluster of
Right.
people with bad ideas.
It's so funny though, because there was this one kid out there who literally looked like he didn't have any idea what he was even doing there, holding a sign that said, "What will happen to our rights?" And I said to Sheila, I said, why don't you go over and ask him which rights he's
Right.
referring to? Because he probably couldn't even name one.
No.
Put
they
up and
couldn't.
someone threw a sign in his hand.
Yeah. Well, and we invited them into the event.
Yes.
That we said, hey, if you guys have questions, come on into our event. We're happy to ask or answer them. Just please behave. Like, don't interrupt people. Just be on your best behavior, and we're happy to take your questions. None of them accepted the offer.
I bet they didn't.
No.
I bet they didn't.
Because they don't want to know.
No. Jason Kenney, he doesn't realize what he's doing when he says some things. Like, this is Jason Kenney responding to a poll, again by David Coletto at Abacus Data. So David Coletto says the independence debate may be reshaping federal politics in Alberta. 79% of strong independent supporters back the Conservatives federally. 56% of strong independence opponents back the Liberals.
Huh.
Okay. So he replies and says, by the way, it doesn't show movement. Like, it doesn't show a coalescing of opposition around the Liberals, right? Like, that's not what it shows. It actually shows something about the Conservative base. But Jason Kenney is too deranged in his anti-independent sentiment to notice exactly what he's doing with his Project Fear campaign. So he says, to those who imagine that a separation referendum will increase Ottawa's leverage or Alberta's leverage in Ottawa, in fact, you're just going to end up electing more Liberal MPs in Alberta. How? That's not what the data shows. The vast majority of Albertans want us to lead Canada, not leave it. Dividing Albertans weakens our province. You know what he's missing here? When he's on his little Project Fear campaign, talking down to separatists and calling them bootlickers, you know what he's doing? He's alienating the Conservative base, because that's what those numbers actually say. The Conservative base is independence-minded. Quit crapping all over them and treat them with respect, like Danielle Smith is doing. She says she's a Federalist, but she's not dismissing their concerns, and she's letting them have their say. He is actually demonizing them and talking down to them, using the language that Justin Trudeau and the Liberals used against the Freedom Conoy.
And he's doing it with the platforming power of the CBC. This is where this is where these crazy opinions of Jason Kenney's have caught fire. And we know from yesterday, again, from Travis Danaraj testifying at the Heritage Committee, that this is all by design. Jason Kenney is on the CBC list. He says these crazy things against regular, everyday, normal, working class Albertans, and they amplify it. It's egregious and unforgivable, really.
Yep, it's a terrible attitude. Jason Kenney has turned into a big disappointment for sure.
Yeah.
It shocks me how he can just disparage Albertans. And, I really admire Danielle Smith for her stance on that and for coming out and saying, look, I'm not going to, malign, a large population of my province. We have genuine concerns. And that's, once again, it's that elitist attitude that Jason Kenney has where, the little people shouldn't have a say. It's like we just don't know better, and these people think they're our parents or our keepers. We're just not smart enough to figure this stuff out on our own. But one of the things about when we were on our independence tour was that one of the things that the convoy showed was we don't need government. We can take care of ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so if I had to ask you guys to pick a new leader of the Conservative Party, would it be Danielle Smith or would it be Jason Kenney? Those are your only two choices. Pick the one.
Danielle.
Danielle, for sure.
Crazy.
Every single Conservative in the country is saying Danielle right now.
Especially at the convention. Everyone was like, I love her. I wish she was our premier. I'm like, I'm sorry about Doug Ford.
Yes,
I'm very,
right?
very sorry. You must be from Ontario,
Right?
for you to
Doug
be saying
Ford-
such things.
Doug Ford's buddy, Jason Kenney, is over at the CBC booth. Like, go deal with him. Go deal
Right.
with him.
Yes.
Also, I
Anyway,
want to point
interesting.
out that, like, first of all, I want to reiterate, Jason Kenney should have looked at those numbers and said, man, I better stop crapping on those people.
That's right.
I'm
I'm abandoning
them.
our people. Yes.
I'm not helping the Conservative Party. But it also wrongly presumes that independent supporters will not vote Conservative. We just saw they did in an election less than a year ago. We had a separatist party run in the Olds by-election. They
Yes.
absolutely got smoked because separatists are conservative voters who aren't willing to risk a vote split. And the separatist movement is not within the party infrastructure. It's a grassroots movement outside of that. And so Jason Kenney is wrongly presuming that people who would vote for independents won't vote for the Conservatives. Of course, they're the same people.
Well,
That's
you're
what the data shows.
It must be real.
Well,
tough
it's
for
very
Jason-
telling.
Yeah, go ahead, Tamara Lich. Go ahead.
Sorry, Lise. I'm sorry. I think I have a bit of a lag, so I apologize if I cut
It's
you
okay,
off.
babe.
But I think
No,
it's
go.
very telling, as you know, the testimony came out yesterday, that Jason Kenney is not on the Conservative Voice blacklist of 45 names that are not allowed to speak on the CBC. So that in and of itself speaks
Yes.
very volumes about his position.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
We've got a clip here from CBC. Speaking of people who are allowed to go on CBC, Hassan Piker. They brought this streamer from the States. I don't even know if he's ever set foot in our province, talked to a single Albertan. They bring him on to discuss Alberta separatism on the national. So let's watch this, and then I'll tell you who Hassan Piker is.
What do you think of some of the rumblings from Alberta talking about how they want to separate?
I don't understand Albertan separatists at all. As someone who lives in America, you don't want to know what it looks like when you have no health care that's backed by the government at all. It's not great.
Not true.
It's interesting to see the same exact separatist movements being implemented in a Western country that's such a close ally to the United States of America, because this is what we have done for decades to Latin American countries, to countries in the Middle East, and now it almost feels like we're doing it haphazardly to one of our most loyal allies in the North.
What do you think of
Okay, there's no American interference in the separatist movement. So even though he's indicating as such that we're doing it to our friends in the North, they've got zero involvement in what's happening here. What is he even talking about? He leads by saying, as an American. Okay, well, you don't have anything to say then, especially if you're not here, not talking to us. Why would CBC even ask this guy this question? Second of all, he's a far left-wing streamer, not even a journalist, just a streamer who once said that
She's flipping. She's got.
I'm flipping. He once
Yeah.
called people rabid ultra-Zionist pigs, and he used a shock collar on his dog on a live stream.
Okay.
He's not on the blacklist though, but Tamara is.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well,
just
again,
goes
why
to
would they
show.
have an American even voice an opinion like that? And number two, he clearly doesn't know what's going on if he thinks that we're such great friends. I mean, has he not been paying attention to the Liberal government's demonization of Donald Trump and the United States of America?
Right. And to say there's no like federal backed healthcare in the United States, that's also not true. It's just not true.
Yeah. What did this guy say to allow him to puncture through the CBC's approved narrative?
Ultra
Which
Zionist
is-
pigs, if I had to
Right,
guess.
right.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
funny that they would also use him. Just a reminder, they platformed that guy and they platformed Jason Kenney, and I think that says a lot about the CBC.
Yeah, right. But Tamara's on the
Definitely
blacklist.
Well,
Yes.
And
that's
so
right.
are you.
Yeah.
And I got somebody fired.
I consider it a badge of honor. What the
Oh.
CBC doesn't want anything doesn't want anything to do with the darn.
Right.
How am I going to console myself other than?
Yeah.
But this is just another example of, where do these people find their experts, and what do they deem? I
Expertise.
stopped following and believing in their experts during COVID.
Right.
You know,
Right. But I mean, like,
what's he an expert of?
I don't know. Like, at least their fake experts during COVID wore white jackets. And you're So they had that like veneer of expertise. This guy isn't even trying. He's like, I'm on Twitch. I'm an American. Okay, get on here then and tell us how bad the Albertans are.
Yeah. Interesting choice.
Yeah, it is
For
a
the CBC.
choice. It's a definite choice. We want to talk to an actual separatist to find out what their grievances are.
No.
No.
That'd be too hard.
No, you'd have to set foot in Alberta, and that's gross. Naheed Nenshi, NDP leader in Alberta, he has a video of the Assembly of Treaty Chiefs delivering a unanimous vote of no confidence in Daniel Smith and the UCP unanimously. This is not a stunt. It's a warning. Let's watch this clip. From what I believe, these chiefs heckled in the gallery of the legislature last week. Like they couldn't even respect the decorum of the legislature. If I did that, I get my ass thrown out right away, but not these guys. Anyways, let's watch this.
This has never happened before. We have never had a situation where all the chiefs stand up together and say, we have no confidence in this government.
The motion that was passed at the AOTC was brought forward by one of our chiefs, Ellery Starlight, and it was unanimously passed by all of our chiefs at the table.
For the government to suggest that Indigenous people can be used as a political stunt is a mistake.
This is a political stunt.
What do you think?
When they minimize First Nations and call this non-confidence vote by the Alberta Chiefs a stunt, I take that personally.
Standing in the face of an unprecedented...
What did they think they were doing there? What
that
did
was
they
a
actually think
political
that they were?
stunt.
Yeah. Hey, it's not, I just find it hard to believe that all of those chiefs just walk around every day with their humongous feathered headdresses, war bonnets. That should be our first indication that this is a political stunt, that they're all in full regalia, surrounding Naheed Nenshi. But this is embarrassing, Naheed Nenshi.
Yeah, I mean, look, Indigenous people, just like the rest of us, get one vote in the provincial election, okay? And lots of where their communities are, they voted Conservative. Just because a group of you and your friends can get together and say, we have no confidence in the government, doesn't mean anything.
No, just because all the people in the
speaking doesn't matter.
Yeah, everybody in the Chiefs group chat, you know what I mean? That they thought a thing doesn't mean that the people that they are elected to represent also think that thing.
Right. And in the provincial election, like Sturgeon Lake area, that went Conservative. The people have spoken. Just because you and your friends have an association and you don't like the premier, that doesn't mean that you get to overturn the last election for 4.5 million Albertans. Girls, you and I could get together and we'll form some sort of allegiance of bitter Western housewives. And we'll just say, we have a non-confidence vote against Mark Carney. Now what? Huh? Now what?
No, do something. Do something, but we have to show up in matching regalia, just like those chiefs did, okay? Because that's what makes it serious. So I say plaid, like Buffalo plaid. Sheila Gunn Reid for the Rebel colors. That's what we're gonna wear.
I'm just like to say it's not a political stunt. That's obviously a political stunt, and it also disenfranchises Indigenous people who vote Conservative. And
there's a lot of comments that I saw on X of First Nations and Métis people that want independence. They want an independent
We
Alberta.
met them on the tour.
Again, exactly. And again, I am a member of the and I see these chiefs getting up and putting their foot down, and we're going to take the government to court over independence, and we want Danielle Smith removed as premier. But I've never seen an email, been invited to a town hall, or been asked my opinion or input as a Métis person on my thoughts on independent Alberta. So, I mean, they're not talking to everyone. This is a small group of people within a wider group of people who think that they're speaking for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody gets one vote. That's the beauty of democracy.
That's right.
Yeah. And again, if this was any other group of people, the sergeant at arms would have been called into the Alberta legislature. All of them would have been shown the door immediately. And the police would have been called if this was any other group of people.
Look what they did to a certain group of people that drove to Ottawa 4 years ago, and we weren't even trying to replace the leader. We didn't even ask for that. But could you imagine if that's what we did there? I mean, there's no emergency act being invoked over the chief standing at the legislature.
Yeah. If these chiefs have lost confidence in the Alberta government, you know what they can do? Vote differently next time.
Independence. That's right.
Just vote. The provincial election comes around, you vote for somebody else. But you don't get to overturn the will of 4.5 million people who democratically elected in a fair election the current premier to a majority government. Sorry, you just don't get to. I'm sad you're sad, but it doesn't undo everything. I'm sorry that you're having a bad feeling about Daniel Smith, but it doesn't undo a democratic election. Coots border crosser protester Marco Van Hugenbos. His sentence was recently upheld by the Alberta Court of Appeal. He's sentenced to serve 120 days in jail, and he's got a week to turn himself into corrections officials.
It's 4 months away from his family, yeah.
Yeah. For nonviolence. So he was convicted of mischief exceeding $5,000. I guess.
They get their pound of flesh.
They sure do. His
This was after 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his lawyer argued, was it Brendan Miller? I think it was.
Yeah.
Submitted that Hugenbos was that the sentence given to him, this is in the appeal, was demonstrably unfit because many of the cases cited before the judge in sentencing involved jail terms of 60 days or less, or suspended or conditional sentences. And yet still they opted for the high end of jail time for him. His poor family.
They're definitely after their pound of flesh, for sure. You know, and one thing that I think is really striking about Marco's case is that here's a gentleman that was well known in his local community before this happened. He was, I believe he sat on the municipal council.
Yeah.
And so he really took a step forward to try and represent or, go between the police and the protesters. And he took that on upon himself to try and mitigate. People that are, protests going on in the future, that's just not going to, people aren't going to step forward to do that.
Well, and that's what it's designed to do. That's what happened to you. That's what it's designed to do. That's what the freezing of the bank accounts were designed to do. And we hear it, actually. Tamara, we heard it at the Independence town halls. A lot of people are concerned about what happens to my information. Does the federal government get their hands on my name if I put my name on this petition for independence? They're very worried about what happens the day after. They're worried about this vindictive, evil federal government coming after them because they stood up. We hear it all the time. And this is just another example of like a misplaced, outsized sentence used on a peaceful man who stood up to the government to make sure that nobody else in the community gets any unfriendly ideas.
Well, it's that state of affairs for Canada, guys.
Yeah. This is, I talked about that already. Let's go ahead to, I know we're rapidly running out of time. This story that should surprise absolutely nobody. From our friend, one of the best shoe leather journalists in the entire country who broke this story, old Joe Warmington.
Joe Warmington. Oh, brother.
He's the best.
Joe has an impeccable Rolodex of sources. Okay, probably nobody in the country is better sourced than Joe Warmington. And when he discovered this story, I went, "What has happened here?"
So, Toronto cop arrested on multiple assault charges amid community trust controversy is the headline over at Rebel News. Constable Farhan Ali, an ex-Muslim liaison officer who defended pro-Hamas rallies, faces multiple criminal charges as Toronto police navigate repeated oversight failures.
Intrepid viewers of Rebel News will remember this guy. as the guy that we talked about hosting a podcast where he, discussed October 7th, how October 7th led to an explosion of people becoming Muslim.
Familiar, at least,
Yes.
with Islam. And
Yes, and we're highlighting this guy months and months and months ago. It turns out he just got charged in February for SA, and other kinds of violence.
Yes.
And the guy that brought the story, that broke it wide open, was none other than our friend Jill Warmington. Yeah.
Yes. So 3 counts of
there he is on the left.
3 counts. Yeah, there he is on the left. 3 counts of SA, just to be YouTube friendly.
Mhm.
Another count of assault, plus 4 counts of committing a Tamara Lich, and that's mischief.
So he's been put on administrative leave with pay.
Right.
He's put on. He's still pulling his paycheck.
That's nice
but
for him.
Yeah, they took him out of commission.
Nice for him.
Yeah,
as an active service member while they investigate this. My question is, why wasn't the chief out having a press conference in advance of this, explaining to the people
in February?
Why wasn't anything said about this? This is a matter of intense public interest. Why did it take Jill Warmington's sources, a month to get this out into the public? Why weren't the police in charge of this?
Well, to be fair, they're investigating their own. They've got some other problems at the Toronto Police Service right now, and the more that you read, and then this came out yesterday. Like, I think we're literally just seeing the very tip of the corruption iceberg, not just with the Toronto Police Service, but I think we're going to see as this goes on that this is going to extend farther. And I think this is just another example of what's to come as these they're investigating themselves, so who knows what we're going to find out. But I think more and more will come out, and we're going to get a glimpse into the actual scale of the corruption in our law enforcement agencies.
It's almost like hiring and promoting unqualified people for the purposes of DEI ends poorly just about every single time.
Every single time.
Yes.
No good outcomes. Here's another example. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this story, see how it unfolds.
Yes.
You know whose jobs are safe from DEI, and that would be Rosemary Barton and David Cochrane.
Right.
They seem to be the only ones.
Bitter middle-aged white people.
About sums it up.
Let's go into this video from Saskatchewan.
Oh,
Saskatchewan doing a good thing on the firearms file, which they always do. I was critical of Premier Scott Moe earlier in the week, but I will let that go by the wayside for a minute to celebrate the efforts of his government to protect law-abiding firearms owners from unlawful seizure of their property and unfair scapegoating of them for the crimes of gangsters using illegal firearms in Canada's progressively run big cities. So Saskatchewan introduced legislation to authorize individuals to store their firearms with the provincial government to insulate them from criminal charges, so that they're not in possession of a prohibited firearm. Very sneaky. He's very creative on this file. This
is the Saskatchewan. Here is
pulling the Saskatchewan again.
Here's our Minister of Justice telling us exactly what they're going to do.
Uh-oh. No audio.
Submit a request for valuation by the Saskatchewan Firearms Commissioner, and the Government of Canada is required to pay the owner the full fair market value of the firearms. Mr. Chair, I'm pleased to offer opening remarks for Bill 42, the Saskatchewan Firearms Amendment Act 2025. This act is about both public safety and recognizing the rights of Saskatchewan's lawful firearms owners. This bill contains 2 sets of amendments. First, the amendments provide legal firearm owners a right to fair compensation for lawfully owned firearms that are rendered valueless by the federal government's recent firearms laws. Under these amendments, a firearm is deemed to be seized by the federal government if, firstly, the firearm is subject to the new federal firearms laws, and secondly, the owner does not receive full fair market value compensation under the Act within 12 months after the federal law comes into effect. If the firearm is deemed to be seized, the owner may submit a request for valuation by the Saskatchewan Firearms Commissioner, and the Government of Canada is required to pay the owner the full fair market value of the firearms. If the Government of Canada refuses to pay fair market value compensation to the owner could choose to bring a claim against the Government of Canada for recovery of that compensation. These compensation rules apply to handguns that were impacted by the former federal Bill C-21 and firearms that have been impacted by federal orders in council. Mr. Chair, additional House amendments will also be moved today respecting these changes. Section 117.08 of the Criminal Code exempts individuals from certain federal firearms laws when they are acting on behalf of a provincial government. These House amendments allow Saskatchewan's Firearms Commissioner to designate individuals who are acting on behalf of the Government of Saskatchewan for the purposes of Section 117.08. Under this change, owners who request a valuation by Saskatchewan's Commissioner may be authorized to store their firearm on behalf of the province until the completion of the evaluation process and until they have received fair compensation from the federal government.
So,
to be eligible for this.
So you see what the government of Saskatchewan has done here is tell the people of Saskatchewan, look, you can store your guns on your premises on our behalf. You know, we're gonna make it
3D chess. What the Saskatchewan government just did. So first of all, if your gun is deemed seized, they're going to demand that the federal government doesn't pay you pennies on the dollar, but
they're
actually
pay the full market value. Yes.
Actually what your firearm is worth, and if not, they're going to help you sue the feds. And then secondarily, the province will store your firearms for you to insulate you from criminality, but the province is also going to authorize certain individuals
to be an agent of the
province to store them on your behalf. And so you're acting on behalf of the province when you hang on to your own firearms. My goodness.
This is Sask Party. This is Sask Party / Government of Saskatchewan at its absolute best, where they're outmaneuvering the federal government. They see what the federal government is doing, and they're outmaneuvering them. This is a perfect example, and it really gives me hope. Oh, this silly phone. It really gives me hope that we're going to be able to lick some other issues in Saskatchewan. If they would treat healthcare and education the same way that they treat firearms rights in Saskatchewan now, then we'd be cooking with gas.
This is a perfect example of pulling the Saskatchewan.
So good.
Federal government just outsmarting them every step of the way. Yeah. It's brilliant, and kudos to Scott Moe and his government for taking these
Tim McLeod.
steps. Yeah, Tim McLeod for taking these steps to protect the law-abiding firearms owners of Saskatchewan. Getting creative and outsmarting Gary Anandasangri, which actually doesn't seem like that much of an accomplishment when I say it out loud.
That's right.
All right. I think we'll do the chats and then we'll do the cringe, I guess. And Lise, the cringe comes by way of you. So I'll let you set it up, but I'll do the chats first.
Okay.
So I think we just have 3. Glenn Gardner 4126 gives us $10 and says, "No need to react. I just wanted to express my thanks for Rebel News courage and truthful reporting." Well, thanks,
Glenn.
So much. Yeah. Glenn Gardner again gives us $5 and says, "Rebel News is a proven cure for the CBC disease, which is why the CBC is against Rebel News." Fair enough.
Yeah. Rebel News is the inoculation against the disease of the CBC.
And more Glenn. If Canadian
Glenn is just in there
Glenn,
today.
you know what? Glenn came into some money. He says, if Canadian independents are like USA independents, they're mostly traditionally minded folks discouraged by politicians who only stand for maintaining personal power in re-election. Yes. That is true.
Yes. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. Okay, Lise, set up the Daily Cringe.
Okay, everybody, hang on to your pants. This story comes to us
I haven't
today.
seen it yet.
The Daily Cringe comes to us today from our good friends over at Just Bins waste disposal in Regina, Saskatchewan, and they have notified us, the Just Fins people, that an art exhibit traveling the country, the Governor General's traveling art exhibit, has a show at the Mackenzie Art Gallery, a publicly funded, the oldest publicly funded art gallery in Saskatchewan, and the content of this exhibition, of this experience of art. Well, you guys just got to see it. Can we play that video from just? I don't. Oh no, we have
Olivia informs me. She said, "Sheila, am I allowed to show wieners on the live? I don't know if we can show it. Okay, just warning."
Okay, just content warning. So this is oh wow. There's a different video that we could. But this is great. I mean, this is what. So it is a porn box.
A porn box.
It is a porn box that is in the gallery. They warn you about it when you come in the door. It is part of the Governor General's traveling art exhibition.
Why is there a priest in the middle of that? What kind of sacrilegious nonsense is this?
This is an art exhibit by
no, that's that.
Oh no. Sorry, you guys.
Look at Tamara. Anyway, just face. I'm so sorry.
So we're gonna give this grandma
I'm the biggest prude. I'm not for any sort of nudity. I don't even like showing my shoulders, okay? This is not for
Olivia,
me.
You just perked everybody up, Olivia. Okay, now we are all understanding what the art exhibit is showing. And so this art exhibit is based on a pornographer, a gay pornographer, that also gets funding from the federal government to make his films, to then screen his films at Regina Public Library, who is asking for a ton more money in the next couple weeks, okay? Regina Public Library helped create this person, and now our tax dollars are being spent sending a porn box, a gay porn box, across the nation of Canada. It begs to be mentioned that Mackenzie Art Gallery's CEO is a they, them. Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
So this is John, they, them. This is the CEO of the Mackenzie Art Gallery, one of the most respected arts galleries in the entire province of Saskatchewan. And you guys need to know that the Mackenzie Art Gallery does a ton of children's programming.
Oh my Lord.
So anyway, it goes without saying that I won't be taking my kids to the Mackenzie Art Gallery. See, I'm not going to take my kids to the Mackenzie Art Gallery so long as there are people that are going there to see the porn box. Okay, these things don't mix. But I don't know what you guys want to say about it.
Taxpayer money well spent.
This is art in modern Canada. This is art. I'm going to find out how much this thing cost. I like how they threw in the Catholic priest for just heresy.
It is like if you if you zoom in, it's so much worse. Like it's so much worse than we could actually just show. No, we don't want to, but it is so much worse than you could ever imagine. And to know that this is taxpayer funded and that this is, proudly displayed in a gem of a facility that PS is funded to the millions of dollars by Saskatchewan taxpayers, millions of dollars they receive every year. They were just at the City of Regina begging for a whole bunch of money. The Mackenzie Art Gallery, I think over $300,000. And this is the quality of content that they are producing.
I'm going to find out how much all of this cost.
Let's do that.
Yeah. I'm revolted.
Let's do that because this is deviant fetishism. Yeah. That's just allowed out in public.
Art. This isn't art.
Yeah.
This isn't like objectively beautiful. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder or the beer holder, whatever the case may be. But there's nothing beautiful about that. Or
no.
And you know what? You want to have a porn box? Ain't my business. I don't want to pay for it. And I don't think it should be displayed in a public institution.
Well, and especially that caters to children. Yeah. Sorry, but those two things do not go together. Yeah. Those two things do not go together.
Yeah.
And that this was pitched and approved and funded and installed. Well, I think it says a lot about the society that we're living in right now. When I tell you that I live in the wokest hellscape in Saskatchewan, I mean it. This is what I mean.
Yep.
Anyhow,
Anyhow.
There you go. That's the Daily Cringe.
That's the Daily Cringe. Okay, I'm going to wrap the show. That was more like a daily jump out of my own skin. Go have a shower.
Wow, I can't wait to see the live chat after this, because you know that they just saw that too.
I'm the biggest prude about nudity. And I just want to really reiterate that. At least is too.
It's shocking, man. It's shocking.
Like it's no thanks. All right.
That was the best Olivia comment on planet Earth, though. Just are we allowed to show wieners?
Sheila, are we allowed to show wieners on the live stream? Yes.
Oh, thanks, Olivia. Thanks.
Yes.
Babe.
Okay. Thanks, everyone who watched the show today and bearing with us as Tamara Lich dealt with a little bit of a little technical lag there. Olivia, thank you for probably having to have those images closer to your face than you would have liked. Thanks to everybody who
our reaction all in a row.
That's a screenshot. Anyway, thanks to everybody who watched the show today, pitched it a little bit to keep the lights on here at Rebel News, who do the very free thing of sharing our content across the platforms and engaging with it, because that helps us get higher in the YouTube algorithms. If you haven't subscribed, consider it. By the way, talk it over with your friends, your family, doctor, see if it's right for you. And I will see you tomorrow. Thanks to my co-hosts, Tamara Lich and Lise Merle. See you tomorrow. I think I'm hosting with Tamara Ugolini. If you guys find us offensive, maybe don't find us at all.
Well, I'm very honored to welcome Lori to our caucus. It is a great pleasure. One of Canada's greatest constituency MPs. You represent a riding that is the size of Mexico. And very down to earth, and we've had conversations about what we can do, both large and small, in Nunavut. Large projects, but also helping everyone get ahead. So all for Canada, Canada for all.